I swear, if that smug bastard had said one more word, I'd have laughed in his face just to keep from putting him through the table. We were at a dinner I didn't want. My wife, Ashley, had called it a serious talk over steak and wine. I figured maybe, just maybe, she was finally ready to patch up the cracks in our marriage. Instead, I walked straight into an ambush with candles. Across from me sat Chase Donovan, her colleague. The guy was wearing a black shirt, so tight, it looked like it was fighting for its life. His smirk was plastered on like he practiced it in the mirror that morning. And Ashley? She was leaning in close, laughing way too hard at his dumb jokes. "Logan," she said sweetly, motioning to the seat across from them. "This is Chase. You've heard me mention him from work." He leaned forward like we were in some low-budget Western. "I'll make this simple," he said smoothly. "You've got two options, Logan. Leave quietly, or face me like a man." Ashley didn't flinch. She smiled. That's when I realized I wasn't at dinner. I was at my own execution. But see, the thing about me is, I don't rattle easy. I smiled right back, folded my napkin, and said, "You want your teeth whole, or do you prefer them in pieces?" You should have seen Chase's face. Priceless. Ashley gasped. "Logan, you're embarrassing me." Embarrassing her. Not herself, for parading me into a restaurant so her boy toy could flex, but me, for not rolling over on cue. That was the moment I stopped being the husband trying to save a marriage. That was the moment I became the man who would make sure this little game of hers ended with me one step ahead. And trust me, this was just the opening move. I didn't sleep that night. Not because of Chase's smug face. That was just comic relief. No, I was awake because of the way Ashley looked at me across that restaurant table. It wasn't guilt. It wasn't fear. It was boredom. Like I was a rerun she'd already seen a dozen times, and she was flipping the channel mid-conversation. So, while she slept soundly in our bed, her back turned to me, naturally. I sat in the kitchen with a notebook and a fresh cup of black coffee. I wasn't making lists of how to win her back. I was sketching out a plan. By morning, I had 3 rules. Stay calm. No outbursts. No begging. Collect proof. She lives on drama. I'll live on facts. Hit her where she doesn't expect. Over breakfast, she tried her usual act. Poured herself orange juice. Acted like the night before hadn't happened. She even asked if I'd be able to mow the lawn this weekend. Sure, I said, right after I finished meeting with my new attorney. That one landed. She froze mid-sip, a flicker of panic sliding across her face before she smoothed it over. Attorney? For what? I smiled, calm as could be. Oh, just some paperwork. She tried to laugh it off, but her fork clinked against the plate. I'd seen that move before. The tiny tells when she was bluffing. She wanted to play poker? Fine. I had the better hand. She just didn't know it yet. By noon, I'd already installed a little camera in the hallway photo frame, the one she never dusted. Don't worry, nothing shady. I didn't want a soap opera. I just wanted to know the truth. And sure enough, I didn't have to wait long. That evening, while I pretended to be on a late grocery run, she brought him in. Not Chase, someone else. Tall, tan, smelled like cheap cologne. They walked right past the frame without even noticing. Her laugh was different, lighter, real. And as I watched the footage later that night, I didn't feel heartbroken. I felt confirmation. The cracks in her perfect little game had finally started showing. And I was ready to break them wide open. By now, I wasn't just watching Ashley, I was studying her. The way a lion studies a gazelle that thinks it's safe because the grass is tall. She thought she was clever. Thought her little parade of cologne samples and whispered phone calls went unnoticed. But when you've been married to someone long enough, you know the sound of their lies by the rhythm of their shoes on hardwood. So I made myself smaller, quieter, a man with nothing to hide, because he was hiding everything. My first move? I visited an old friend, Taylor Reeve, divorce attorney with a sharper tongue than a rattlesnake and a heart colder than my wife's loyalty. Taylor didn't ask questions. He just said, "She cheating?" I nodded. "Want revenge or just freedom?" I said both. In that order. Taylor smiled like I handed him a puzzle he hadn't solved in years. We spent 2 hours going over assets, accounts, timelines. Turns out, Ashley had been quietly moving money. Little bits. Discreet withdrawals from our joint savings account over the last 6 months. A trail of breadcrumbs she never thought I'd follow because she assumed I was still too love-blind to notice. I noticed. I noticed everything. Back at home, she was making pasta. Like it was just another Tuesday. "Want some?" she asked. Already ate, I replied. Oh, with who? She asked a little too fast. Just myself, I said. Sometimes the best company is quiet. She narrowed her eyes, but said nothing. She was suspicious, not enough to act, but enough to keep the conversation casual. That night, I made a quiet call to a real estate buddy. Told him to start looking for a one-bedroom, short-term lease. Then I cleared half my clothes, packed my laptop, chargers, my grandfather's watch, and a few keepsakes. All before sunrise. Here's the thing, I didn't leave. Not yet. I just made it so I could, in less than an hour, whenever I wanted. The power shift wasn't in walking away. It was in knowing I could, and she didn't have a clue. Meanwhile, the camera caught a second visitor. Not the tan cologne guy. Not Chase. This time, it was some wiry guy with tattoos and a voice like gravel. 3 different men in 9 days. It wasn't just cheating. It was a rotation. That was the moment it clicked. Ashley wasn't just a liar. She was running a tour, and I was about to shut it down. But not with yelling. Not with fists. With something far worse. Silence. Strategy. And timing. It started with the wine. Not the fancy stuff, not the bottles she bragged about to her friends like she was a sommelier trapped in the body of a suburban housewife. No, this was the box wine I kept in the garage fridge for football games and late nights when I wanted something cheap and cold. Ashley came home one evening, heels clicking across the hardwood, and there I was, pouring myself a glass of it. She wrinkled her nose like I'd just tracked mud on her Persian rug. Box wine? She asked. Since when do you drink that? I shrugged. Since I realized taste is subjective. She laughed nervously. Not the good kind of laugh. The, I don't know what he knows kind. Thing is, she was right to be nervous. By that point, I knew almost everything. Not just about Chase or tan cologne guy or tattoo boy, but about her late-night bank withdrawals, the secret phone she kept in her gym bag, and the business dinners that somehow never made it onto her expense reports. But I didn't confront her. That's what she expected. She wanted me angry, loud, desperate. She thrived on drama because drama gave her control. If she could get me to explode, she'd get to play the calm one, the reasonable one, the victim. So instead, I smiled, took a slow sip of my bargain wine, and said, "How was your day?" She blinked. "Fine. Busy." "Yeah." I asked, "What did you do?" "Oh, meetings," she said quickly, tossing her coat over a chair. "Lots of calls, you know how it is." Sure I did. And so did the little camera in the hallway photo frame that caught her slipping a guy inside just 2 hours earlier. I didn't say a word. I let her sit down across from me, talking about her clients and deadlines, while her lipstick was smudged and her perfume was mixed with a cologne I'd never worn in my life. The funny thing about watching someone lie, you stop feeling angry. You start feeling entertained. Like you're watching a bad actor forget their lines in a play you wrote. And I had the script. The next morning, she was in a rush, rummaging through her purse, muttering about being late for a meeting. I handed her the keys she forgot on the counter. She kissed my cheek, the kind of kiss you give an uncle at Thanksgiving, and darted out the door. As soon as her car pulled away, I opened her laptop. Not snooping, no need. She'd saved her passwords. Rookie move. Her inbox was a goldmine. Flirty emails, hotel confirmations, a draft folder with unsent love notes she probably never had the guts to deliver in person. One of them started, "Chase, I don't know how much longer I can keep this secret." I stopped reading. Not because I couldn't stomach it, but because I didn't need to. I already had enough. By noon, I'd forwarded every incriminating email, every hotel receipt, every photo from the hallway cam, to a private drive only I could access. Then I texted Taylor, my attorney. "Me. She's sloppy. We've got enough to sink her. Call later." "Taylor, she's toast. You want me to file yet?" "Me. Not yet. Timing is everything." Because see, leaving her now would be predictable. And I wasn't after predictable. I wanted her to think she was still in control right up until the moment she realized she wasn't. That night, she cooked dinner. First time in weeks. Some overcooked salmon with lemon. She clearly Googled the recipe for last minute. I sat there, ate quietly, complimented it. "You've been different lately," she said, squinting at me over her wine glass. "Different how?" "Calmer," she said slowly. "Like you're, I don't know, letting go of things." I smiled. "Maybe I am." Her fork clinked against the plate. She hated not knowing what I meant. She thrived on certainty, on being 2 moves ahead. But for the first time in a long time, She didn't know where I stood, and that terrified her. 2 days later, she tried a new tactic. "Logan, maybe we should take a trip. Just us. Somewhere warm." She said it casually, like it had just occurred to her. But I knew better. This was her stalling move. Distract me with palm trees while she sorted her rotation of boyfriends. "Sounds nice," I said. "But maybe we should wait until after your deadlines." She smiled, but her eyes narrowed. She knew I was onto her. She just couldn't figure out how much I knew. The real kicker came that weekend. I got home early from running errands. Translation: meeting Taylor. Her car was in the driveway. I walked in through the back door, quiet as a shadow. Voices floated down the hall. "He has no clue," a man laughed. Ashley's voice, soft and smug. "He's too boring to notice. Always has been." I stood there in the kitchen, staring at the untouched wine glass she'd poured for me like a prop. Too boring. That was her verdict on the man who built her this house, paid her bills, supported her through every career whim. I didn't storm in. I didn't shout. I just turned around, walked right back out, and sat in my truck until they were gone. Then I came back in, calm as ever, and noticed the wine glass again. Poured myself a drink, sat in her chair, and waited. When she finally came out of the bedroom, hair a little too messy, cheeks flushed, she froze. "Logan, you're home early." "Yeah," I said, taking a sip. "Thought I'd surprise you." She tried to smile, but her eyes darted toward the hallway. "You seem relaxed," she said carefully. "I am," I replied. "Nothing like a quiet evening in your own house." We locked eyes for a long moment. She knew I knew. She just didn't know how much. And that uncertainty? That was the beginning of the end. Because the truth wasn't going to come crashing down in one blow. No, I was going to let her watch it unravel thread by thread, until she realized the entire sweater she'd wrapped herself in was nothing but lies, and I was the one pulling the string. By the time she went to bed, pretending nothing was wrong, I already had my next move lined up. And trust me, it was going to sting. You ever watch someone smile at you with a secret in their mouth? A secret they think you're too dull to detect? That was Ashley every morning. She kissed me like a coworker, said, "Have a good day," like a waitress who'd already counted her tip. And every time she walked out that door, hips swaying like punctuation marks at the end of her lies, I smiled right back like I didn't already have her whole script memorized. But that week, I started editing the ending. First move, I made a visit to her office. Unannounced. I brought her a coffee and a smile. The receptionist blinked like I'd walked in wearing a ski mask. "Mr. Callahan," she said, standing halfway. "Ashley didn't mention you were coming by." "She didn't know," I said, setting the coffee on the counter. "Just thought I'd surprise her." Ashley's office was glass-walled, modern, clean, too polished for someone with as much mess behind the curtain as her. When she saw me, her smile flickered for half a second, just long enough. Then she stood up fast, almost knocking her chair back. "Logan, what a surprise." I held up the coffee. "Your favorite. 2 sugars, no cream." Her eyes darted past me, scanning the hallway. For him, I realized. Chase. The cologne guy? Mr. Gravel voice? Who knew? She wasn't worried I was here. She was worried someone else might be. But I didn't come to catch her. I came to mark my territory. So I kissed her on the cheek, just long enough to smear my scent into her afternoon, and said, "Thought we could grab lunch." She hesitated. "I've got meetings." "No worries," I said. "I'll just wait in the lobby." She blinked. "Wait? You don't have to." But I was already walking out. I sat in that lobby for 37 minutes. Just long enough to make her nervous. Just long enough for coworkers to ask questions. Then I stood, tossed the empty coffee cup, and waved to the receptionist with a smile that said your girl's living in borrowed time. That night, she was different. Less smug. A little jittery. Poured herself wine before I even walked through the door. "You okay?" I asked, hanging up my coat. "Fine," she said, way too quickly. "Just a long day." I nodded. "Busy meetings?" She flinched. Just a blink. "Yeah, normal stuff." "Normal stuff. Right." She changed the subject to something about the water bill. I let her talk. Let her dance in circles, trying to figure out if I'd seen something I hadn't mentioned. She thought I was unpredictable now. Good. Next move, I started bleeding money. Not mine, ours. See, Ashley was meticulous with our finances. Always knew to the cent what was in every account. So I started moving small chunks. $500 here, $1,200 there. Just enough to show up on her radar, but not enough to trigger alarms. After the third withdrawal, she brought it up casually over dinner. Have you been making any big purchases lately? I took a bite of mashed potatoes. Couple small ones. What? She sipped her wine. Just noticed some dips in the joint account. Probably nothing. I shrugged. Could be the market. Things are weird lately. She smiled, but there was tension in her shoulders. Because Ashley hated not knowing. And now, the account she'd been slowly siphoning from? It wasn't behaving. I watched her chew slower after that. Every bite like a question. Now for the piece de resistance. Her birthday was coming up. Normally, I'd plan something. Dinner, gifts, one of those remember when we were happy photo albums. This year, I planned something different. I booked a weekend trip to a lakeside resort. Cozy cabins, fireplaces, couples massages. The works. I handed her the gift envelope over dinner, smiling like a golden retriever. What's this? She asked. Open it. Her eyes scanned the card, widening. Oh wow. Logan, this looks amazing. It's all booked. Just you and me. Quality time, no distractions. She hesitated. That weekend? I think I have a. I already checked your calendar. You're free. I watched the corners of her mouth twitch. She wanted to say no. She had plans, no doubt. Someone lined up, or maybe even multiple someones. But now she had to choose. Cancel our trip? The big romantic gesture? Or cancel him? She chose the trip. Of course she did. Because the Ashley I knew would never risk looking like the bad guy. She needed the illusion. Even if it was cracking at the edges. The cabin was beautiful. Remote, quiet, expensive. I made sure she had every comfort. Fluffed pillows. Poured wine. Took long, slow walks with her by the lake. And the whole time, I played the perfect husband. Because this wasn't a vacation. It was a mirror. Everywhere she looked, she saw the man she was cheating on. The man she was lying to. And for once, she couldn't run off to anyone else's bed to escape the guilt. At night, she'd crawl under the covers and stare at the ceiling. Logan, she asked one evening, voice soft. Are we okay? I looked at her for a long moment. We're learning, I said. She nodded slowly, like that word held hope. It didn't. It was just vague enough to buy me what I needed, time. When we got home, she seemed changed. Less confident. More guarded. Like someone who knew the ground was moving under her feet, but couldn't tell in which direction. She started checking her phone, less in front of me. Started keeping her gym bag closer. Even stopped wearing the perfume she used to wear for him. As if erasing the scent would undo the story. But it was too late. Because while she was busy changing passwords and deleting messages, I was backing up everything. I'd cloned her phone a week before the cabin trip. I had everything. Text threads, hotel bookings, photos, audio, even one message where she sent someone my schedule and said, "You've got a 2-hour window if you hurry." A 2-hour window. Like I was a shift to be worked around. I stared at that message for a long time. Not angry. Not sad. Just done. And that's when I knew. She thought she was living in the climax. But we hadn't even reached the twist yet. There's a peculiar kind of calm that comes over a man once he stops hoping for honesty. That's where I was. Ashley still played her role, smiling at dinner, asking about my day, even reaching for my hand during a Sunday movie night like we were teenagers again. But the sparkle in her, I wasn't love. It was calculation. She wasn't holding my hand because she wanted to. She was checking if I'd bite when she tossed out the bait of, "We're fine." I didn't bite. I squeezed her hand gently, smiled back, and made a mental note. She was nervous. Good. The following week, I made my first real move. Not the surveillance. Not the careful withdrawals. Not the cabin that doubled as a psychological cage. No, this was the one that would set the tone. I want to see her boss. Now, before you picture me storming into the office to rant about affairs and betrayal, let me assure you, I wasn't there to embarrass myself. I was there to plant seeds. Her boss, a guy named Daniel, was one of those salt and pepper types who lived in a suit. He respected me, mostly because I'd helped him out years ago with a contract dispute when he bought his house. We met for coffee, just two professionals catching up. "So," Daniel said after some small talk, "how's Ashley doing?" "She's been a little distracted at work lately." I almost laughed. Distracted. That was a polite way to say she'd been sneaking in her boyfriends between conference calls. "She's under a lot of pressure," I said smoothly. "Juggling more than she lets on." He raised an eyebrow. "Personal stuff?" I gave him a practice sigh. "Let's just say, if she seems off, it's not because of the job. She'll find her footing." That was all I needed. Not accusations. Not drama. Just enough to make him watch her closer. By the time Ashley got home that night, Daniel had already emailed her. We should chat tomorrow. Some concerns I'd like to go over. She walked through the door pale and jumpy, holding her phone like it had just handed her a subpoena. Everything okay? I asked, setting down the paper. Fine, she said too quickly. You sure? I tilted my head. Yeah, just work. She smiled. Thin, brittle. And I knew. The paranoia was setting in. Meanwhile, I was tightening the financial noose. I'd set up a private account months earlier, back when the late nights and networking events first started raising my eyebrow. Every time she thought she was being slick siphoning money from our savings, I was moving more into mine. By now, I had enough tucked away to walk out tomorrow and land on my feet. More importantly, I had enough to leave her on hers. Which, trust me, was the plan. Because Ashley loved control. Money, image, narrative. She needed them like oxygen. So my revenge wasn't going to be loud or messy. It was going to be clean. Surgical. The kind of cut you don't feel until you're already bleeding out. The funny thing? She made my job easier. One night, while she was showering, I heard her phone buzzing on the counter. Same lock screen as always. But what she didn't know was that I'd already mirrored her texts to my tablet weeks ago. So when I picked up her phone, I wasn't looking for secrets. I already had those. I was looking for timing. And there it was. A thread with Chase. Friday works. He's at that client dinner. I almost laughed. That client dinner was real. I had scheduled it myself with Taylor as a decoy. She thought I'd be out of the house for hours. Perfect. Friday night came, and I kissed her on the cheek before heading out. Don't wait up, I said. She smiled. Too wide. Of course. But I didn't drive to the restaurant. I parked a block away from the house and walked back quietly. At 8:13 p.m., Chase showed up. I didn't need to peek. The hallway camera gave me the whole show. The smirk on his face, the way she pulled him inside like a teenager sneaking her boyfriend into her parents' house. I didn't storm in, didn't shout, didn't throw a single punch. Instead, I watched the live feed from my phone, sitting in the dark of my car, sipping a thermos of coffee. At 9:02, I texted her, "Love you. Hope you're having a relaxing night." She froze. The camera caught it. Her eyes darted, her hand trembling as she typed back, "Love you too." Watching a show. I smiled. Proof enough. By midnight, Chase was gone. I walked back in like nothing had happened. She was curled up on the couch, hair messy, pretending to watch TV. Good night. I asked casually. She nodded, her smile paper thin. I leaned down, kissed her forehead, and whispered, "Mine too." She didn't sleep much after that. I know because the camera caught her pacing the living room at 3 a.m., staring at the front door like it might open again. Over the next week, I turned the screws tighter. A missed dinner here. A vague phone call there. Every time she asked where I was, I gave her an answer just specific enough to be believable, but vague enough to make her wonder. "You're out late a lot lately," she said one night, twirling her wine glass. "Am I?" I asked, pretending to think. "Yeah. Funny," I said. "I thought you liked having space." Her jaw clenched, but she didn't reply. That was the beauty of it. She couldn't accuse me of anything without admitting what she was doing herself. She was trapped in her own silence. The breaking point came on a Tuesday. She came home early, earlier than usual, tossed her bag on the counter, face tight. "We need to talk," she said. I looked up from my laptop, calm as a monk. "About us." I closed the lid slowly. "All right." She hesitated. "You've been different. Distant. I feel like you don't care." I finished. Her lips parted, but no sound came out. "I do care," I said evenly. "That's why I've been paying attention." Her face went pale. "Paying attention?" I sipped my coffee. Funny thing about people, Ashley. They always think they're clever. But cleverness leaves footprints. She blinked fast, like her brain was scrambling to connect dots she didn't know existed. "What are you saying?" she whispered. I smiled. "Just that I noticed things." And then I stood, kissed her cheek gently, and walked past her into the kitchen. She didn't follow. That night, she barely touched her dinner, barely touched her wine. She stared at me like I was a puzzle she couldn't solve, chewing on her own panic. And I knew right then, she was close to breaking. Not because she loved me, not because she felt guilty, but because, for the first time in her life, Ashley realized she wasn't the smartest person in the room. And the cruelest part? She didn't even know the game had only just begun. The next morning, Ashley tried a new tactic. Breakfast. She made it all. Eggs, toast, coffee. Even the pancakes I used to joke she only made when she felt guilty. Morning, she said softly, like she hadn't been cheating 2 nights ago. Smells good, I replied, taking a seat. She watched me eat like she was waiting for applause. But I gave her nothing. Just nods and polite thank yous, like I was being served by a stranger. She finally cracked. Are you mad at me? I looked up, blinked once, and asked, why would I be? She didn't answer. She just poured herself a cup of coffee with shaking hands. Her fear wasn't about me yelling. It was about me not yelling. Because silence makes guilty people imagine the punishment long before it arrives. And oh, hers was coming. 3 days later, I handed her an envelope. She opened it cautiously, like it might explode. Inside, printed photos. A neat little spread. Her, with Chase. Her, with the tan guy. Her, with gravel voice tattoo boy. Hotel receipts. Screenshots. Dates. Times. Where did you get all this? She whispered, eyes wide. I tilted my head. From you. She looked up, pale. Are you going to divorce me? I didn't answer. Instead, I pulled out a second envelope. Inside, a copy of the post-nuptial agreement she forgot she signed 5 years ago, the one stating that infidelity forfeits all claim to marital assets. She stared at it like it was a death certificate. You tricked me, she breathed. No, I said, standing. You tricked yourself. I just kept receipts. Then I walked upstairs, left her at the table. A woman who thought she was playing chess, now realizing she brought checkers to a gunfight. She tried damage control, begged, cried, said it was just a phase, that she wasn't herself. I still love you, she whispered one night, reaching for my hand. You love control, I replied. And right now, you don't have any. That was the night I moved out. Not with shouting. No bags tossed onto the lawn. Just a clean exit, half a closet's worth of clothes, and my name removed from the deed the very next day. She called me 12 times. I answered none. I had Taylor send her the formal notice 2 days later. Infidelity proven, assets frozen, house to be sold, proceeds mine. She called again and again, left voicemails filled with apologies, threats, accusations, even pleas to just talk. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. I had one last move. And it was almost time. A month passed. Ashley was unraveling. Friends ghosted her. Word had spread. The girl who once boasted about her perfect husband was now the cautionary tale at every dinner party. And then she got the letter. A formal invite to a private event. Not from me, from Chase. At a rented venue downtown. Just closure, the note read. Let's talk in person. 7 p.m. She showed up, of course. Hair done. Makeup just right. She even wore the perfume she used to save for special nights. The one she wore when she thought she had everything in the palm of her hand. But when she walked into that room, it wasn't Chase waiting. It was me. And a screen. I hit play. 30 silent seconds of her own words. Her own footage. Her own betrayal. Just enough to remind her that I had always been the one watching. She stood frozen. Why are you doing this? I stepped closer. Calm. Even. Cold. Because you thought I'd fall apart, I said. You thought I'd beg, scream, maybe even fight for you. But Ashley, I'm not broken. I'm free. She tried to speak. I stopped her. This isn't revenge. This is clarity. This is what it feels like when the truth doesn't need a punchline. Then I walked past her, out the door, into a life that no longer had her fingerprints on it. She didn't follow. Not because she didn't want to. Because she finally understood she couldn't.